Good evening. I call this Iowa City Community School Board meeting on Tuesday, November 26, 2019 to order. My name is Janet Godwin, and I want to thank those in the audience, those watching on YouTube, and those following on Twitter for joining us tonight. I'll start by introducing those at the table with me. To my right, Superintendent Steve Murley, Directors Phil Hemingway, Ruthina Malone. To my left, Paul Ressler, Sean Eystone, JP Clausen, and Kim Colvin, Recording Secretary. The public is reminded that if they wish to speak, they need to complete a speaker form found at the table in the lobby and turn it in. During community comment, persons may speak to the board about topics relevant to the district. All community comment directed at non-agenda items and agenda items shall take place at the beginning of the meeting during the community comment section of the agenda. And we'll move into community comment. First up, we have Eric Creech, followed by Mary Kenyon.
My name's Eric Creech. I'm here to advocate for my family. My wife was a 30-year art teacher with the school district, and she recently parted ways with the school district. We feel that many process issues weren't considered fairly, and the hearing with the board was not fully attended. Specifically, a board member that through research we knew might be sympathetic was 3 minutes late to the hearing and not allowed to attend. That would have been at least one board member at the hearing that might have advocated for us. My family is going through a lot of suffering due to this. My wife is diagnosed with PTSD because of it. She was already under the care of a doctor for other health issues, and instead of showing a supportive approach toward people with mental health issues, she was basically terminated for things we disagree with. Performance issues were surmounted. It did take some time because of city's condition. It was connected also to my youngest son. My youngest son has gone through the school district. He's 17 years old now. He attended Longfellow Southeast City, Trek, and Tate. He basically was, I feel, and doctors feel, wrongly diagnosed by the school district as having oppositional defiance issues. Later, it was determined that he actually had severe depression. So, although I'm going through really tough times with my family right now, because most of the people in my family have depression and or anxiety, I feel very, very lucky because my son is alive. He's lucky to be alive because he had suicidal ideation or whatever, and he had to be hospitalized at times. One of those times, he was administered Halidol, and it had a terrible reaction to him, and he was pretty much on a gurney, strapped down to a gurney in an isolated room, shaking for over a day. During that time, my wife and I were having really hard times. It was difficult for us. We feel like we're failures as parents. We don't exactly understand mental issues that way. We're not professionally. I'm a grocer. She's an art teacher. We're good at those things, but we don't understand all these issues. We're doing the best we can. She's granted family medical leave. While she was granted family medical leave, she was supposed to be helping with my child, helping to figure out how we can basically save his life. I mean, that's how we felt. And instead, she could not break from the fear of losing her job. If she loses her job, we lose our insurance and we lose all ability to care for our family. When she lost her job, something really interesting happened. We found out we retroactively lost our insurance. So one day we're driving up to get the prescriptions that the family needs, and instead of being told that we weren't going to have insurance, we found out through the pharmacist that we retroactively had no insurance. which was strange because we paid our premiums. The premiums were taken out of Cindy's final checks. So that seems strange and still seems strange to me because we put money into the insurance, but we didn't receive the benefit of insurance. That was very, very traumatic. Luckily, I'm employed and I could get insurance through my company, and now everyone's getting the medication and the doctor's attentions they need.
Thank you, Eric. I'm sorry, we're out of time.
And
I apologize.
I'll continue another month.
Thank you. Mary Kenyon, followed by Julie Van Dyke.
Good evening. My name is Mary Kenyon. I'm a parent of 2 students in the district. Our family has been at Lucas Elementary for 9 years. Yesterday, we received for the 5th time in those 9 years a notice of a change in principal. If you go back a year before, our family was at that school. Lucas has had 5 principals, 2 interim principals in the last 10 years. This is unacceptable. Lucas staff and families deserve consistent leadership. Whatever is causing this churn clearly goes beyond issues with any single person. Following the retirement of a longtime principal 10 years ago, we have now seen 4 people hired for this job. I have been asked to serve as a parent representative on the interview team for the last 2 principals, and both times the frequent turnover has been a topic of discussion. It's a known issue, and we've been told it's being addressed, and yet here we are again. I submit to you that before this district welcomes our principal, Dr. Jenkins, back from her leave of absence, or undertakes a search for a new principal if Dr. Jenkins is unable to return, you must get to the bottom of this issue. I'm here tonight to request a thorough review be conducted by your HR and/or equity staff to identify and address the barriers to consistent and successful leadership at Lucas Elementary. You can't solve a problem if you don't know what it is. You cannot continue to lay this problem on the desk of one principal after another. You know the saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Talk to current and former principals. Talk to current and former staff. Put the pieces together and solve the puzzle. Our kids deserve this from you and from our administration. Discussing this bigger 10-year picture, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that Dr. Jenkins is the 3rd Black woman to face resistance to leadership in this district in recent years. Just as with the Lucas turnover, here you have 3 separate individuals, highly qualified for the jobs you hired them to do, who have faced insurmountable opposition. This board and this administration has talked about its commitment to diverse hiring, but again, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. It's well past time to address this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Julie, followed by Yolanda Spears.
How many over the age of 50 teachers, particularly women, have been suddenly terminated in this district, probably not long before they retired? Wow. You guys ought to know that. You really ought to know that because it's not right. They're being targeted, in my opinion. It certainly appears that way to me anyway. And it's ruining families. Was his family offered an IEP evaluation by this district under federal child find law, like the 12-year-old girl who committed suicide from Southeast wasn't, from what I hear? You know, you can sit up here and say it's not your job to do this or that and that you only have the one employee, but do you know how many of you I've seen go through this desk and make excuses and make excuses while abuses like this continue, and yet we always have money for more and more and more and more administrators at the ESC, don't we? Really, we're going to fire another black principal or just remove them from their position and then give them a job down at the ESC again? Really? You know what? what are you doing with your employee to make sure these things are being addressed and aren't being repeated again and again and again? Because I don't see a lot of hope here. I just see us keep doing the same things, and you guys, except for you, Ruthina, thank you, and you, Phil, thank you, and often you too, JP. I don't see the rest of you doing much. Rolling your eyes, looking at your shoes, not my problem. Glaring, Janet, you're really good at it. I'm concerned that the district is violating federal law and not offering students who have diagnoses that qualify them for IEPs, and at least for an IEP evaluation, that they not only weren't offered it, but when they asked for them, they weren't given an evaluation for that. This is a problem. That's federal law. When you guys sign your new folks in tonight and they swear to uphold the law and the Constitution, just like you did, are you doing it? And are you being diligent about it? And are you just taking what they're telling you? Or are you really looking at the past history of the district and the cycles that we go through over and over again with this stuff? Because you all swore. You all took an oath. Are you recusing yourself from votes that benefit your employer, Paul, Janet? You know, seriously, there are issues here. And perhaps it's time to just come up once in a while and remind you of them, but spend a lot more time with the government agencies that oversee these things and going to them with the lengthy history that I have and the many flash drives that I have and backup documents that I have, and showing them this history, because this school district stinks and kids are dying and people are losing their jobs after they've had 30 years of stellar service. His wife was my son's art teacher at Hills, and she was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Can we stop hiring people at the ESC and start putting that money back into the classrooms? And can we start looking at HR? And I've already heard one potential or soon-to-be board member flip and suggest that we do the focus groups, or whatever you're going to call them, on the threat assessment team grant that you committed $60,000+ to in the first year without a board vote and without a board president's signature on it, which was identified by the state in that site visit for our special ed as illegal. You know, you guys need to dig a lot deeper, and I suggest you get in touch. And the ones of you that I can trust, I'll tell you what I have, I'll give you what I have, but you guys got to dig deeper than this, because just nodding up here and accepting the versions of what you hear from them, it's not enough. You have a duty to the children and the teachers and the families in this district to do better. And you have to each commit to doing better, because it can't keep going like this. And I am going above you now.
Thank you, Julie. Yolanda Spears?
Good evening, everybody. Yolanda Spears, former employee at ICCSD. I just want to say that as far as leadership, I want to support what Mary Kenyon came here to say. Also to make note that Dr. Jenkins hasn't been fired. There is an interim in place, and there is a lot of interims. And during the time that I was there, I had a lot of leadership changes. And I think that we need to start really digging deeper and looking at what's going on in the school. I think it goes deeper than just principals. I think that we need to start looking at faculty and staff and what's going on there too. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda. That concludes community comment. We will move into our agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve our agenda this evening?
I move that we approve our agenda.
Second.
I'm ready to vote.
Online voting is open. I'm not getting yours, Phil.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry,
That's okay.
Log out.
All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Phil, bills this period.
I'm sorry, I think I've been doing this long enough that I figured out. Yes, we had $2.6 million worth of expenditures. I want to thank Charlie Eastham for coming in and getting a taste of what I've been doing for a while here, every 2 weeks. A couple of things of note. We have a lot of musical instrument repair annually, and maybe when we're looking for an apprenticeship program with West Music, we might try and do something there to get our students involved with that. It seems to be lucrative work, and if you enjoy music, it's you won't work a day in your life. Also, we had a Terracon contract for a mold concern at Penn. I spoke with Dave McKenzie about it, and it was checked out. Everything is fine. And then just the other things in there. But I wanted to thank Charlie for coming in before he's officially sworn in to look at that and encourage the board going forward to get a person to commit to doing it full-time, as well as everyone doing it in rotation, because I think it's important to have fresh eyes, but I think it's also important to have somebody that's kind of consistently doing it and following it that way. At least that's my philosophy on it, but I would encourage the new board members to consider taking that on.
Thanks, Phil. Anyone else besides Phil and Charlie who reviewed bills?
I reviewed the
Comments?
bills,
Okay,
and
thanks.
there was one question that did go out, because I saw that we purchased the collaborative marker board for Faith Academy, and so I just had a question wondering why that was, and it was due to educational law that it was explained in the email, so
that's right.
that question was met. And I had a question wondering why windows were cut and removed at the ESC, and Kim was very helpful to take me back to a renovation project that our physical plant people are working on, and additional workspace here at the ESC, and they actually cut and installed windows, but the way they write it up, it made it seem like they were removing windows, putting people in the dark. So I wanted to know why that was, so thank you.
Thanks, Regina. Thanks, Phil, and thanks, Phil, for your continuity in terms of reviewing the bills. I think you're right around that consistency of that review has been really helpful. Are there any consent agenda items that directors would like to pull?
I'd like to pull 9.
Any others? Is there a motion to approve consent agenda minus item 9?
I move that we approve the consent agenda minus item 9.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with Directors Ressler, Godwin, Clausen, Malone, and Eystone voting yea, and Director Hemingway voting nay.
Thank you, Kim. Phil, item 9.
Yes, I'd just like a little more clarity on, we're painting the outside of the freezer, and it's 4 years old or less, and is that going to contribute to any food safety or food quality issues?
There's a backstory to that, if you like it.
Well, I read that, go ahead,
Yeah,
give me the
back-
story.
The backstory is that those panels were produced by a company here in Iowa City that's since gone bankrupt. They specified a certain type of finish for that. The architects and engineers went a different direction. However, it was not properly specified. And we are pursuing insurance claims to recoup the money for repainting this building. And beyond that, your second question, will it affect the interior quality of the food? Absolutely not.
Okay. I think, okay. So we went with the architects and the builders' recommendations instead of the,
The builder followed the architect's specifications, and I think the specifications were incorrect, so we've been pursuing that.
okay. Is the architect still in business and local, and,
Absolutely.
okay. And why did you choose the second high bid?
Well, the high bidder specified two coats of the finished product. The low bidder had one primer and one finish. The middle bidder did 1 primer and 2 finish. So we got an extra coat of paint for about $900 more. I thought that was a good value for the district.
Well, and this is coming out of Pebble?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think we have other concerns, more pressing than doing the outside of a freezer that's 3 years old and should have been painted right in the first place, so.
Any other comments or questions from other directors? Is there a motion to approve item 9?
So moved.
Second.
We're ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with Directors Ressler, Godwin, Clausen, Malone, and Istone voting yea, and Director Hemingway voting nay.
Thank you. We will now move into the canvass of votes, and our board secretary, Janet Graft, will review the canvass.
The abstract of votes for Johnson County, Iowa, we, the undersigned members of the Board of Supervisors and ex officio County Board of Canvassers for the county do hereby certify that the following to be true and correct abstract of the votes cast in this county at the 2019 Johnson County City School election held on the 5th of November 2019, as shown by the tally list returned from the several election precincts. Charlie Easton received 4,995 votes. Sean Istone received 4,783 votes. Paul Rissler received 5,572 votes. Michael Tilley received 4,273 votes. Stephanie Van Hoosen received 3,306 votes. Julie Van Dyke received 3,021 votes. Lisa Williams received 5,898 votes. The candidate total, 31,848 votes. Scattering, 157 votes. Total, 32,005 votes. We therefore declare Charlie Eastham duly elected for the office of ICCSD Board of Director for the term of 4 years. Sean Istone duly elected for the office of ICCSD Board of Director for the term of 4 years. Paul Ressler duly elected for the office of ICCSD Board of Director for the term of 4 years. Lisa C. Williams duly elected for the office of ICCSD Board Director for the term of 4 years.
Thank you, Janet. I will entertain a motion to accept the canvass of votes.
So moved.
Second.
Kim, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Now we'd like to recognize Director Hemingway for your years of service on our school board. I have a word of merit of plaque to take with you. And I would just like to say and express my gratitude for your service to the district, your tenacity, your focus on whether it's reviewing bills in a continuous way, your focus on CTE, always looking at the best interest of our students and teachers, and it's a hard job, and I want to thank you for the work that you've done. Would you like to make any comments, Phil?
Last time, just because you weren't here, the rest of us were able to say something
Sure.
before they spoke. I'd just like to thank you, Phil, for your leadership on the Integrated Pest Management Task Force, the Playground Committee, Operations Committee, and all the other work that you had done in regards to that. I think that our district is better off for the things that those committees ended up coming up with, deciding on and moving forward. So I appreciate that, and I thank you for your time, the 4 years that you spent here on the board.
I'd like to, personally thank you for when I first started, much like Charlie, I guess you showed me how, what the bills looks like, going through those invoices, because there's a lot there and it's complicated, so I really appreciate the training there. And one thing that I've always appreciated has been your work with getting our kids over to Chicago for the annual car show. I think that's something that would kind of get lost if you weren't advocating for that. So I really appreciate that as a kind of a unique thing that you've brought to the table.
Yeah, Phil, I appreciate your leadership. I think Jan said your tenacity. I think the issues you care about are important. They don't get enough play or action, and I think you've really stuck to that. Whether and like Paul said, the IPM and the Playground Committee, I think those are two things that are really going to stick with us for a long time and have very measurable impact on what happens for kids. I think. I think nobody ever questioned kind of where your heart is, or I didn't, as far as doing what's best for kids and doing what's right for their futures and making, not just scholars, but citizens. And I really appreciate that, and I'm going to miss your leadership on those issues.
Everybody has covered everything, but I want to say thank you for your 4 years of dedicated service, and that I hope that your next journey is filled with everything that you richly deserve in this world, and wish you all the best.
Thank you. Well, I guess I spent some time trying to prepare something, and I didn't like how it turned out, so I guess I'm going to go off script on this. First off, I want to thank you for the personal recognition in the agenda that way. This has been a 10-year journey for me, 6 as a private citizen and 4 as a board member. I want to recognize Kim Coven for all the help. I know it's going to be an easier road for her, not having a board member that needs everything printed and all of those things, and I know I was a burden, so that burden has been lifted. I want to thank a lot of people, but recognize them in public for fear of retaliation, because we are a retaliatory district. But I want to thank my mom, who supported me in all my endeavors, and unfortunately didn't live long enough to see me succeed at this one. I want to thank Janet Kendall, who at the Seashore Hall Reading Clinic taught me how to read. There'll be no books written about her, but she was a phenomenal instructor and was very patient with a difficult young man who had trouble with dyslexia. And I want to thank my daughter, who was my first campaign manager as a sophomore in high school, and came up with the idea for our signs, which the first 2 runs were all homemade, and when we did that. I also want to thank my wife, who for 10 years meetings that sometimes ran late and spanned a lot in that, and she gave me up willingly, and I appreciate all the help and support that she gave me along the way on that too. I've always felt that as a board member, I was not a public relation agency for the district, but I always felt the board is an oversight board that answers to the public. I did not work for the administration, and I did not work for the board. I worked for the public. And I tried to do my best in what I felt was areas that needed that attention, and I wish we could have accomplished more, but I thank everyone that helped me along the way, and staff in particular that I admit I was not the easiest person to get along with, but I don't apologize for asking questions that made people feel uncomfortable. Thanks for everybody, and my key's in the drawer. I've left some lifesavers and some cough drops to the next person. So thank you very much.
I feel like we need to round up the Thank you very much. We will now move to adjournment of this board. I would entertain a motion for this board to adjourn, signed die.
Sure, why not?
Second.
Kim, ready to vote, or just?
That's good.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Adjourned.